Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. Hey, if this is your first time here, why don't you check out the vibe? We do these reviews all the time. We do other content as well. We're coming out with some all throughout the week. So come back if you like this. Today, we are going to break down the Knob Creek 9-year, and this is the 100 proof version. And I'm excited to get into this one. This one's actually my go-to restaurant pour. Now, I will say, as much as I say it's my go-to restaurant pour, I kind of walked away from the official tasting very surprised. We'll see if I have the same experience on this tasting as I go through it live with you. But yeah, I was a bit more conflicted on this one than I thought. So we're going to go through, break this one down, go through the notes, and see how this one ranks at the end. Thanks for joining, everybody. Let's kick off the show. All right. And then for today's tasting, hey, I got a Whiskey Central glass. Cheers, Shayla. Now, one thing I got to note, whenever I open up one of these things, the wax on these latest Knob Creeks is so much better than it used to be a few years ago. I don't know if you've heard people joke about how bad the Knob Creek wax was, but when you used to open these things back 5 years ago, 3 years ago, you'd pull the tag and it would just turn into chips everywhere. They would fly, they'd hit you in the eye, they'd make you go blind. There was just like wax mess all over the place. This one tore off all easy and nice and smooth. So they clearly upgraded the wax here. The other thing that's interesting about this particular pour too, and this is why you don't take things for granted, but this little 9 here disappeared for a solid year and a half, 2 years, I think. And then eventually they brought it back, and I was very good to see that they brought it back. But essentially, I guess they just hit a supply chain issue or the timing of things. They just had to take away the age statement, use younger whiskeys for a little bit until the stocks got back, and then they brought the 9 back. Something like that, I'd imagine. But man, it does teach you, don't take things for granted, even standard things on the shelf. So this is the Knob Creek 9-year. This is 100 proof. There is another version of this that you'd find for 120 proof, single barrel version of this, 9 years as well. They've really standardized that as they've expanded some of their other lines to take advantage of the older whiskeys. There's a time I used to get 15-year store picks of this very consistently. But with this one, as I mentioned off the top, this is my go-to restaurant pour. I just find it consistently at restaurants. I mean, it's $30, $32, something right around there. And restaurants don't mark this one up. So if you can give me this for $7, $8 and a pour at a restaurant, heck yeah. Now, the one thing, though, that I am conflicted about, we're going to go through this one. I'm typically not drinking it out of a Glen. I'm typically drinking it out of a rocks glass. And I think that kind of affected my perception of it a little bit. But let's go through it, see if I align with where my scores were that I put together the other night. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining. We are going to go through the nose, then we're going to break down the palate, and then we'll get into the scores. Cheers, everybody. So one of the reasons I brought up the whole Glen versus the rock glass thing, this thing's got an ethanol kick to it. I mean, there's some ethanol there that'll punch you in the face if you get too deep. Slight nuttiness that you'd expect from a Knob Creek Jim Beam product. Lots of vanilla. Bit of powdered sugar. Lean towards an apple if we're going to go into the fruit. And you do get that oak presence. I mean, that 9 years is there, which is very nice. For something that's $30 too, for that oak presence, gosh. The Russell's 10 I bought for $30. Now, everyone else was saying, man, that's more like 40, 45 in my area. I can get it for 30 though. That one's got some oak on it too, but the proof is a little lower too. It's a little less aggressive. But I do like the oak that I get on the nose here. All right, let's get into the taste. Nice creamy mouthfeel. Lots of pepper and vanilla up front. Um, the oak does come across, even initially, a little astringent. Going into mid palate, vanilla again for days. Getting into the peanut shells and the nuttiness of it. Lots of caramel. The oak is there mid palate, but it dies down a little bit. It's not as stringent anymore. And then still the fruits I would lean towards. The apple, slight bit of cherry though on the finish. So some cherry does enter the picture, but up to that point, I'm still going to stick to the apple. Then getting into the finish, continuation of that vanilla. That vanilla note is so omnipresent through and through the entire tasting experience. Still got the nuttiness. I describe it more as peanut shells. Lots of caramel. The oak is there, dials up a little bit on the finish compared to mid palate. Apple and cherry are the fruits. I like this actually a little more than I did the other day. I think there is an astringency to it, though. I still think that's the thing that I'm like sensitive to. It really accumulates on consecutive sips. Still thinking, though, the typical environment that I sip on this thing, rocks glass, don't care about the nose, taking my time with sips because I need to last the whole dinner. So I never quite get that accumulative effect that I think I'm getting in this environment when I'm really trying to dissect it and break it down. So I think that's one thing that kind of separates it too. An important thing to kind of keep in mind. Different glasses, different environments, different experiences. Let's get into the scores here. So on the channel, we break things down into a three-tier scoring system. The categories are flavor, experience, and value. Flavor's all about how good the flavors were. Nose, front of the palate, mid palate, to the finish. Experience is more like the technical score, about the complexity of the flavors, the mouthfeel, the length of the finish. And then value is the price paid for the experience that you get. Kind of feel like I gypped it a little bit on value here. I should have given a little higher. Telling you, it just didn't sit with me well. This last time I had it, that astringency note added up a bit more than it even did today, but I still kind of felt it a couple sips in. So that knocked it down a little bit. And then, it's pretty much just a vanilla bomb, honestly. I know I mentioned a whole lot of other flavors, but it's essentially a vanilla bomb. So would I recommend this one? I gave it a 7 out of a 10. I do love getting it at restaurants, so I guess it's all about the context. I think this one's worth paying up for the 120 proof. I think that's where this one kind of sits with me. Man, I like the 120 proof so much more than the 100 proof. Now, that also has a little bit of a hurdle, though, because you got to be able to take that extra proof. Do I plan to buy another, though? Yeah, probably. I mean, this is a staple that should be on the bar. People should appreciate Knob Creek. It's also a really good mixer, really good in eggnog. If you notice, I talk about eggnog quite a bit because that's kind of one of the only mixed drinks that I actually do drink. I like mixing it in eggnog, though. So at the end, it's a 65 out of 100. Good, solid pour, especially if you can get it. 7, 8, $9 at a restaurant. Psh, the only thing that I also get at restaurants is like Wild Turkey 101. These are my two favorite restaurant pours. All right. Well, that breaks down the Knob Creek 100 proof. Once again, solid pour, good pour. I just think I would pay up for the 120 there. So let me know your thoughts in the comments about the Knob Creek 9-year. How happy are you that they got this age statement back as well? Ah, it's just like comforting to see that 9 on there. It was much more comforting when it used to be like 14, 15-year single barrels. But, that's just a story that I'll tell the grandkids someday in the distant future. All right. Well, thanks for joining me today, everybody. I'll catch you on the next whiskey review. Bye, whiskey friends.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends.